Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the program. It's Friday, September 18th, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-kyun. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. South Korea reports 126 new COVID-19 cases Friday, continuing to linger in triple digits. As the infections continue, the World Health Organization called for better protection for medical workers, claiming 1 in 7 COVID-19 cases worldwide are health workers. At a virtual G20 meeting, Finance Minister Hong Nam-ki stressed the importance of keeping a nation's economic activities running while practicing COVID-19 prevention measures. And a top U.S. diplomat says Washington is not discussing the possibility of withdrawing American troops from the Korean Peninsula, claiming that such a move would require cooperation and consultation with Seoul. Now we start with the COVID-19 situation here in South Korea. The number of COVID-19 cases reported on Friday was 126, slightly down from the previous day. Of them, 109 were locally transmitted and 17 were from overseas, bringing the total number of cases to over 22,700. 5 more people have died of the virus, bringing the death toll to 377. While infections continue to stay in the triple digits in the densely populated capital area, the situation in the rest of the country seems to be easing, with the southwestern city of Gwangju in Jeollanam province reporting no new cases for the first time in 37 days. American biotechnology company Moderna plans to seek emergency authorization for its potential COVID-19 vaccine for the use on high-risk groups if it proves to be at least 70% effective. Reuters reported Thursday that Moderna's chief executive said that level will protect many people's lives in the high-risk category. That includes elderly patients as well as medical staff on the front line. Moderna is nearing the finishing line in its late-stage trial of a COVID-19 vaccine candidate, and it is expected to have the results in October at the earliest. According to the FDA, vaccines must demonstrate that they are at least 50% more effective than a placebo to be considered for approval. The World Health Organization says around 1 in 7 COVID-19 cases worldwide are among health workers, with some countries even reporting as high as 1 in 3. The agency is calling for frontline medical workers to be provided with better protective equipment to prevent them from being infected. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
Speaking at a news briefing marking World Patient Safety Day on Thursday, the head of the WHO, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, said around 1 in 7 health workers around the world have caught COVID-19.
Globally, around 14% of COVID-19 cases reported to WHO are among health workers. And in some countries, it's as much as 35%. Although data are limited and it's hard to know whether health workers are infected in their workplaces or communities.
The WHO is calling for frontline medical workers to be provided with protective equipment to prevent them from being infected and potentially spreading it to their patients and families. However, according to the WHO chief, there are other things besides the dangers of infection that medical workers face every day.
It's not just the risk of infection. Every day, health workers are exposed to stress, burnout, stigma, discrimination, and even violence.
Tedros also noted that the WHO's data did not clarify whether health workers had been infected at hospitals or at home. He added the agency will be launching a charter on health worker safety that could help guide institutions around the world. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korea has carried out over 2.1 million COVID-19 tests so far. Over time, developments were made to screening centers. They're now non-contact to lower the risk of infection for healthcare workers. Our Choi Won-jung went to a test center in Seoul to check it out.
With the pandemic continue to linger, the local district in Seoul has come up with a new type COVID-19 test center with quicker and safer screening methods. This so-called non-contact test center opened Monday in the Seocho-gu District of Seoul to minimize unnecessary contact between possible COVID-19 patients and medical workers. The process is simple. Once individuals arrive, they're asked to provide their personal information. Next, they will be escorted to a member of staff who will ask questions based on their symptoms. Then they will move to another room where doctors will take nose swab samples. What makes the center non-contact are the door handles, which have thermal sensors for hands-free access. Also, the staff and patients are always separated by glass, with microphones in each room for smooth communication. Once the samples are collected, the room is disinfected. Disinfectant is spread automatically after individuals leave, and the sterilization lamp stays on for about 8 minutes before the next person enters. The center is able to carry out up to 500 tests a day, and without need to wear heavy protective gear, offers comfortable conditions for doctors and staff.
We don't need to wear level D protective equipment anymore or work in a negative pressure room, so it's much more comfortable.
There's also X-ray room and a waiting area for potential large groups of people requiring checks. This non-contact test center will be able to help the on-site medical workers carry out COVID-19 checks safely and comfortably, even during the hot weather or the upcoming cold weather. 최원정, 아리랑 뉴스.
South Korea's Finance Minister Hong Nam-gi stressed that effective prevention of COVID-19 would be an essential precondition for economic recovery. He made the remarks on Thursday at a joint video conference of finance and health ministers from the group of 20 countries to discuss countermeasures against the COVID-19 pandemic. During the meeting, he explained the Korean New Deal initiative and the country's efforts to contain the virus without shutting down businesses. He said adequate levels of economic activity should be maintained based on strict quarantine measures. In a joint statement, the ministers reflected South Korea's stance that COVID-19 vaccines should be accessible to all as a global public good. President Moon Jae-in visited a facility in Changwon on Thursday, which the government plans to transform into a smart green industrial complex. He believes such a transition is a symbol of his administration's signature Korean New Deal. Our Hong Yu reports.
A collection of data creates an algorithm that is then processed by artificial intelligence to manufacture objects such as these car components. Using this technology, Taerim, a company which makes automobile steering systems, was able to increase employment and sales by 30% last year. This is an offshore wind generator, and 70% of its components were made in Korea. Tusan Heavy Industries and Construction, which owns the factory, has successfully created a Korean model for LNG gas turbines, leading the way in the green energy generator industry. Located in an industrial complex in Changwon, Gyeongsangnam-do Province, these two factories, which are AI-driven and eco-friendly, are examples of what they call a smart grid industrial complex. The government plans to build 15 of them by 2025, investing more than $2.7 billion. President Moon Jae-in visited the industrial estate in Changwon on Thursday, which is seen as a future role model for K-smart green industrial complexes.
데이터, 네트워크, 인공지능 기술로 생산성을 높이면서 동시에 깨끗한 에너지로 환경 오염을 줄일 수 있다면 그야말로 산업단지의 대혁신입니다. 그 대혁신이 바로 창원 산단에서 벌어지고 있습니다.
As part of the Korean New Deal initiative, the transition to smart green industrial complexes is expected to lead to jobs and innovation in manufacturing and help the country become an economic leader. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
In other news, a senior U.S. diplomat says Washington is not discussing the possibility of withdrawing American troops from the Korean Peninsula. Speaking before the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee, David Stilwell, Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs, explained that such issue would require cooperation and consultation with Seoul. But he stressed there have been no such discussions at the State Department. The remark was in response to a request from a member of the committee to seek some assurance that the Trump administration is no longer considering a drawdown of U.S. troops from South Korea. A senior U.S. military official is stressing that North Korea has, quote, a small number of nuclear weapons, stressing the importance of America's strategic deterrence against such threats. Our Kim Hyo-sun tells us more.
The Vice Chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff says North Korea has developed a small number of nuclear weapons. Speaking at a virtual symposium hosted by the Center for the Study of Weapons of Mass Destruction of the U.S. National Defense University on Thursday, General John Hyten did not provide specific numbers. While they may be small in number, he stressed these nuclear weapons can pose a threat to neighboring countries as well as the U.S., stressing the need for strategic deterrence. This, he said, is where defense of the U.S. homeland begins. The vice chairman elaborated that Washington's defense does not begin with missile defense capabilities, which he said is capable of defending the country against any threats posed by the regime. Hyten also explained that the U.S. continues to enhance its deterrence capabilities, pointing out that B-21 and B-52 bombers will substitute the B-2 bombers, while its Ohio-class submarines will be replaced by Columbia-class submarines that are armed with nuclear weapons. While experts remain split on the exact number of Pyongyang's nuclear weapons, the latest related report released by the Pentagon states the regime has 20 to 60 nuclear bombs with the capacity to produce 6 new warheads a year. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
A South Korean, for the first time, has been elected as a member of the UN Human Rights Committee. The Foreign Ministry said on Friday that Professor Seo Chang-nok from Korea University Graduate School of International Studies will serve on the 18-member committee for the next 4 years. Seo received votes from 120 out of over 170 countries. As a competitive committee member, he will help review countries' performance and implementation of human rights laws. From award ceremonies to religious gatherings, many major global events were canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But there are exceptions. An annual event in Seoul is being held as scheduled by going 3D and virtual. Our Han Song-woo reports.
An international conference hosted by Seoul, South Korea began this Thursday. But the 2020 Union of International Associations Round Table Asia-Pacific is unlike any networking event that came before it. Led by its tourism organization and local tech firms, Seoul designed an online platform featuring a variety of local landmarks as virtual 3D meeting venues.
Successfully holding the event is one thing, but we also mulled over how we could really show Seoul and came up with a 3D idea.
Virtual Seoul, as it is called, features Changdeokgung Palace as the main conference hall, the Sebit Islets as workshops, and Namsan Seoul Tower as an information booth, among others. After virtually entering the venue, participants can share intellectual ideas or simply chat amongst each other through split video screens. There's even a place to watch promotional films atop the Dongdaemun Design Plaza. The 2-day event will come to an end Friday evening, but the Seoul Tourism Organization hopes this year's Asia-Pacific Roundtable will leave a lasting legacy.
I'm hoping this roundtable will serve as a catalyst and help contribute to the development of related enterprises.
Throughout the years, South Korea has grown into a global hub for MICE, or the meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions industry. And leading the way is the nation's capital. Han Song-woo, Arirang News.
Good morning. It's a fine autumn day for the central region, while early morning rain on Jeju and for southern parts of the country should let up soon. Then skies will start to clear up. And temperature-wise, it's a breezy start, but the highs will rise fast thanks to the sunshine. So that means we'll see bigger gaps between lows and highs today. And do expect cooler mornings this weekend under plenty of sunshine nationwide. The top readings for today will be similar to yesterday, ranging from 24 to 25 degrees in most cities under clear blue skies, and air quality will be good nationwide. Looking ahead to next week, eastern region and Jeju will see rain midweek, while the capital region will be dry under sunny skies. Meanwhile, wide temperature gaps between lows and highs will continue for the time being. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
That's a wrap for us at the hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.